We're talking about Living Peninsula here. It's the ambiguous edition, developed on the Techland engine, or developed by Techland on the Chrome Engine 6. It's around $20 depending on where you live, or 3,000 GBP if you live in the UK these days. And, you know, what is it? Welcome to the zombie apocalypse experience of a lifetime, and now more beautiful than ever. Caught in the mix of midst of an epic zombie outbreak on the tropical island of Banoi. Your only thought is survive and also chug all the Red Bulls. So this is the Chairquisition. If you don't know how it works, well, stay tuned, because it's the Chairquisition. 1 chair means that it's garbage. 2 chairs means that it's meh. 3 chairs means that it's pretty good. 4 chairs means that's awesome. And we apply these chair rankings to our categories of doom, mixed with the working, shiny sounds, controls, and fun. So let's kick this off. Ven, how did the old beach ball go?
Oh, man. That's a lovely thing. Over here on the Ubuntu 1404 LTS, 8150, 980 powered 4K-ish displayed box of the business. It ran very well. No issues whatsoever. But, yeah, I definitely cannot kick the beach balls, man. Minus 11 chairs. Seriously, what the hell? I mean, that was like part of the entertainment of the original, was trying to kill a zombie with a beach ball, because it took like half of 1 hit point off of it. When you're driving, one thing I like, steering wheel is on the right side. Literally, I enjoyed that. There's a few graphical glitches, but, you know, nothing to complain about considering that awesome performance, even with the AMD sauce. Definitely going to have to give it 4 out of the gate. Looking good.
I would give it 4, aside from one small issue. It fired up in UHD mode on the Fedora 22 powered 64-bit i7 6700K with the GTX 980 and the 32 gigs of the DDR4 RAM. And this thing eats at 4K. Holy shit. Like, the FPS counter will say 30, but it's just so inconsistent and so chuggy. It's miserable. And the cursor just becomes completely non-responsive. I gotta ding you a chair for that, because if you're gonna launch with that shit, you better make sure that it works. So 3 for me on mixed with the working.
Yeah, on the FX8370E on Fedora 23 64-bit with the GTX 970 Strix, I was admittedly surprised when I first got the game and I started it up. In game proper, it will use like 60 to 70% of all 8 cores on the FX8370E and peg the GPU utilization on the 970 at 100%. That's awesome. It's probably the first game that made it painfully obvious to me just how limited the 970 is, because it was actually getting bound by the GPU. The initial load, on the other hand, is single threadsville. It takes almost 2 full minutes to actually load. And then at specific points in game, there's some texture corruption. I'm not sure if it's the textures themselves or the anisotropic filtering, but whatever it is, it causes the screen to be filled out with the stretch version of that texture, and you can't see anything else. This is a problem in areas where there are loads of zombies and you can't see them. Also, I could never get multiplayer to work. I would almost be willing to excuse these teeny tiny issues as bugs, which would eventually be fixed, but neither the developer, Techland, or the publisher, Deep Silver, want to provide support for the definitive edition, at least not on Linux. So for me, it gets 3 chairs.
All right, so that's 3 chairs for mixed with the working. Up next, now that I have my hood on and I'm no longer sitting in the eyes of our chairs, is the shiny and the sounds. Ven, how did it shine and sound?
Brother Svang, welcome back. It is pretty. I mean, the graphical upgrade from the original Dead Island is hella noticeable. It genuinely is kind of like the difference between Metro and Metro Redux, or Metro Last Light and Metro Last Light, and all that business. I did learn something about the one of the islands in Space Australia. Apparently, the sun never fuck mothering sets.
It's Space Australia, man.
I mean, it just doesn't. It sounds miserable. No wonder everything's upside down there. The character models, they're done well enough. Each environment, though, man, it's properly unique. I mean, it's like jarring, like the different places you can go. Like, it's the same game minus the sewers. Those are repetitive as fuck. And all
There's always a sewer section.
Yeah. Speaking of the characters, I kept waiting for the Mel Gibson-looking lifeguard to say something incredibly anti-Semitic. But disappointment aside, the rest of the voice work is top-notch and borderline believable. Pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's definitely another 3 chairs.
Honestly, I didn't really notice that big of a difference between the original release of Dead Island and the quote-unquote definitive edition. I would say it looks about as good as a double or triple A game from 2011 can. Everything looks pretty. Everything's nice and detailed, like Ben said. Like it feels like a full resort. The full gamut of scenery that you would get from going to one of these places. And the voice acting is like competently but done. Your buddy John Cinemoy is Steve Bloom in Aussie mode. And I kept expecting him to tell me to see a Space Cowboy, and I'm a little upset he didn't. That'll ding at a chair. That'll actually just ding at a chair because it's pretty good but not astounding. So it gets 3.
Yeah, as someone who actually played the original Dead Island for about 10 hours, I could see the difference. The Chrome Engine 6 does have some graphical improvements. And the graphics, yeah, they're shiny. They look about as good as you could expect, except maybe the non-zombie NPCs. The Uncanny Valley is a long way down, and they all look like they fell face first into it. What I really enjoyed about Dead Island Definitive Edition was, when it comes to the game's aesthetics, were the ones that you put in your earpieces. The background noise, assuming you've muted the music, it's like being drowned in eerie anticipation. It keeps you at the edge of your seat, even though, you can probably slash your way through anything the game might throw at you. It will still keep you, like, on edge. It's a very, very good soundscape. The voice acting was also very well done. Admittedly, some of those Australian accents sound kind of fake, but that's fair enough. This is all, of course, assuming you muted the music. I will not even address that. 3 chairs.
Crikey, that's 3 cheers. Dingo ate my baby shiny and sound. I'm sorry, Australian viewers, please don't hate me. We're sick of any of your
that was
horrible
almost me level bad.
Listen, it is about as good as Steve Bloom's. That's anyways. Up next is Control.
I don't understand what these yahoos had a problem with. I mean, it's your standard first-person zombie smashathon Wazzat fest. You grab your gerbil, you go at it. I did initially have to go into the controls and adjust the sensitivity on the gerbil just a bit, but after that, there was no issues. I adapted. Good times were had and 4 chairs were given.
See, I had that issue where, like, I had fucked with the mouse sensitivity at 4K, which completely fucked it over when I switched it back to 1080p. So there's definitely some weirdness going on with that. Pedro has this whole rant that you can, tune out for if you need to go to the bathroom or take a nap or something. Everything else is map sailing, except for E and F should be switched, because I kept kicking things I wanted to pick up. And like Ben said earlier, it doesn't send them flying, which is very, very disappointing. So I'll give that 3 chairs.
Yeah, the mouse sensitivity is definitely jacked. I'm almost sure they are using some manner of mouse deceleration, and as is tradition in these cases, they don't give people an option to disable it. Why? What do game developers have against raw mouse input? Ugh, 3 chairs.
That's 3 chairs for controls. And finally, we have our final subjective category. Ben, did you have fun with Dead Island?
You want to take this with a grain of chainsaw, because I never finished the first Dead Island, and some people, you didn't have any bugs, and I was like, it's enough bugs for us. I was like, I'm out, I'm done. But I did put 2 arns into this fuck mother, and Vin don't normally put 22 arns into anything with the possible exception of Shadows of Hordor. Hold the door. And that's actual gameplay with this game, because, I nope side quest. I don't care. You're on the side of the road and like, help me, thunk. If I'm in the car, I'm just going to run you over. Now, admittedly, it does get a bit repetitive around the 18-hour mark, but only repetitive as skull-fucking zombies can possibly get. But that can usually be solved, because this incredible weapon crafting system that really doesn't kick in until after like 5 hours in. Then they just start raining from the skies and you have crazy things. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the bat with the saw blade in it. I was looking forward to that. And I'm going to give everyone a non-spoilery pro tip. Do some of those side quests that I did before going past the point of no return. Once you get there, you'll know where you're at. Don't go. Go back. Take care of business. It does lose a chair, though, for two things. One small and one really big one. The first one is multiplayer, because multiplayer in this game is hella spotty. When it works, it kind of works, and sometimes people just disappear. Getting connected can be a chore. And by the time you get connected, you might not even want to play the game anymore. So maybe they'll fix that, but they probably won't, because, even the little bugs might not get sorted because the developer and the publisher are kind of at odds, pointing fingers at each other, going, I'm not fixing it, you fix it. And the hubbub of, Deep Silver's like, we didn't even say make a Linux port. And they're like, well, why is it out? Why are you selling it? That's kind of a thing. So, yeah. Still a fun game, though. I mean, it's completely playable, completely finishable, and you don't need a stupid high-end system to get the job done. I'll definitely give it 3.
Yeah, I mean, this is Diablo with zombies and some painful driving sections that you'll eventually get used to and be able to tolerate once you realize it's a fantastic way to grind out experience points. And when you engage the game in that level, it's kind of fun. It's Borderlands in a resort. Plus, it is super satisfying to go full-on American History X mode on some of these zombies, especially if you're playing the sword chick and you get the jump attack. You just do flying kicks of death to their heads and then just stomp their heads in. It's very satisfying. It's quite cathartic. I might pop into this game when I'm feeling mad just to murder some people. But like Borderlands, playing on my own, it gets kind of boring. The quests are all really the same. Go find X number of items, bring this thing to go over here. Just your plain old go-to place. But I mean, all in all, the zombie smashing is fun. The crafting, I really wish they opened it up fairly early on, because you can only build so many deodorant bombs before you get a bit tired of it. And yeah, I'm one of those people who will go around, unlike Ven, who will just go straight for the plot. I obsessively go and try to complete all the side quests because I'm an experience and loot whore. And yeah, that part of the game was entertaining. But I really wanted a chance to try out multiplayer, because this seems like getting together with your friends and killing some zombies could be fun. Though that's kind of like Left 4 Dead 2 in a way. Speaking of which, Left 4 Dead 2 has completely fucked up my ability to headshot things with melee weapons in this game, because I keep going for the neck and it keeps missing, and it's like, God damn it! I just want to chop your heads off with my big old machete. Actually, Ben, who did you play as? You played as the firearm chick,
the weapon expert.
Yeah, I did the sword. Pedro, who'd you play as?
Yeah, the exact same one you did.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of variety in the game style. The combat is fairly dynamic. It's pretty fun. It's just I got a little bored of it fairly quickly, as I do with these sorts of games. So I'll give it 2 cheers.
Yeah, that is land definition additive has all the makings of a great game, but when it comes down to it, it's only a good game. It has a grounded set of mechanics, whether you like the MMO style of combat of having to rely on the numbers instead of skill proper or not, is up to you. Personally, I don't mind it. In fact, in that specific subgenre, I'll take Dead is Land over Borderlands any day of the week. The non-zombie NPCs, like I mentioned, all look like they fell face first into the uncanny valley, and the voice acting is often, it's not bad, it's just forced, and it gives... well, it makes it painfully obvious just how much of a tone dissonance there is in this game, and there is a lot of that. The plot and the NPC dialogue want to evoke a heart-wrenching story of people who lost their loved ones to the infection and how you must help them or put their relatives to rest. But then the combat and your own character, if we're being honest, are constantly celebrating the dismemberment of said loved ones when you land a critical hit. And you just get a random disembodied shout from your character saying like, awesome! Or that must have hurt, or something along those lines. It's like, that's not in line with the rest of the tone. at all. And now either all four of the protagonists are sociopaths and the game is actually a genius rendition on the irony of sociopathy, or the plot was developed in a completely different time zone than the rest of the mechanics. On top of that, those nagging technical issues I've mentioned up to this point are compounded by the fact that neither Deep Space Nine or Techwater seem to want to fix them. And you get a game that really doesn't live up to its potential. And there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of content. There's even a lot to appeal to different playstyles and the people who actually approve of those different playstyles. But all you really get when it comes down to it, and the music stops rocking, is a janky, albeit engaging zombie game. So for me, it gets 2 chairs.
Just one thing to add on Pedro's comment regarding your sociopath player characters. This is your standard murder hobo paradigm that every single action game falls into. You go from place to place just killing people because that is what the game expects you to do. If you're supposed to have pathos, you get it through like these little cutscenes or dialogues, and that doesn't really happen because you don't experience it.
Dissonance.
You're too busy killing zombies. Welcome to any game of Dungeons and Dragons. Well, that's 2 chairs for fun. Wrapping all that up, that is 2 chairs for Dead Is Land Definitive Edition. Final thoughts?
Well, I will say, I want to correct you. There's a ton of cutscenes and dialogue in this game. Maybe you just didn't get to it. And it's always kind of fun.
I didn't say there isn't any.
Okay. It is kind of fun once you get done single-handedly playing in Forever Alone mode, slaughtering everything, and you're down to like no health, and you're like, then it goes to the cutscene, and there's 4 people around you, and you're just like, fuck, where were you at? Where were you at during all of that? That's definitely a thing. However, I will say, when this thing was launched on the 3rd of June, it was £3. 3 wet, stinky cashes, man. And
if you own the original Dead Island.
If you own the original Dead Island. Now, most people already did. There is a bit of a hubbub because they ended that promotion early, and a lot of people were just full of shit because they're like, I was just about to buy it, and it ended it. And it's like, you weren't just about it. If you saw something that was £3 and you knew it was there and you didn't buy it, you weren't going to fucking buy it. Fuck off.
Yeah, originally that sale was supposed to go on until August 1st. If you had the original Dead Island or
probably
Dead Island
too many people were
Riptide.
buying it, if we're being honest. That's where like, ooh, shit.
Yeah, that is totally what happened. But yeah, it was kind of a dick move to end it earlier. But when it comes to Dead Island Definitive Edition itself, it's hard to say get it or don't get it. I like it. I do. But I'm one of those people who will tolerate an incongruous or inconsequential story/tone in favor of a sound set of mechanics. And the mechanics in Dead Island are definitely my cup of tea. They might not be for you, though, so...
I mean, it's an okay game. If you like Borderlands style shooters, this will do something for you. Or even if you like Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun if we ever sit down and get like a multiplayer game going with.
Yeah, honestly, this game needs multiplayer. It would be really, really fun.
Working multiplayer. It has multiplayer.
But that's a type 3.